A Space for the Unbound was released 2 years ago and made quite a name for itself in the indie space for its wonderful storytelling. The game has now become a source of pride for the Indonesian gaming community. The Philippines, seemingly not wanting to be left behind by its Southeast Asian neighbor, has developed its own take on the coming-of-age indie game. Enter Until Then. It's also a game we featured on our indie game showcase, linked here. How well does it fare? Will it do for the Philippines what A Space for the Unbound did for Indonesia? Well, let's find out. First, a short spoiler-free synopsis. We follow the story of a seemingly ordinary high school student named Mark Borja. Mark lives a fairly carefree life with his friends Kath and Rydell. Little does Mark know, his innocent small talk about the weather with their class president, Louise, is about to take them down one hell of a rabbit hole. Louise mentions rainfall in recent days, which startles Mark because it hasn't rained at all for a while. This puzzles Louise, and the following day it leads to a discussion about deja vu and false memories. They both brush it off though, but then later, Kath and Mark start talking about the new transfer students. Kath opens social media to take a little peek at what they look like. They find the profile pic of one Nicole Laksamana. As Mark takes a look at Nicole's pictures, he starts feeling off. He has this really strange feeling that he's known Nicole for a long time. What does this mean? How does this relate to Louise's false memory of the rain? And does it have anything to do with the mysterious disappearances around town and the cataclysmic disaster known as the Ruling? Setting aside the strangeness and mystery in the game for a while, the story feels quite real. The game does a good job of taking you back to your teenage years. Yeah, I know teenagers will be playing this game too, let the old man yap, okay? It does a great job of immersing you in the setting, what it's like to be young, attending school, forgetting homework, talking to your buddies about your crushes, and so on. It's quite nostalgic and sets you up to feel certain emotions. And oh boy, will you be feeling it. But we'll talk about that later. There's a lot of attention put into the social media portions. You can click on the comment section and see people commenting. You can even click on the replies. The aunt commenting on your profile pic saying, "Oh, you look nice, sweetie," is too real. Also, sometimes liking and commenting can get you additional dialogue, so try it out. Articles are also clickable so you can get additional world building if you choose to read some. The characters are also well crafted and feel very human. All the side characters have unique and defined personalities, motivations, and backstories, and all of it contributes to the story feeling very alive and real. The immersive and deeply engaging storyline will keep you hooked from start to finish. There was a time while playing this game that I almost skipped a meal just because I wanted to know what would happen next. It does a great job of luring you into the mystery and intrigue that the story presents. It's very engaging in a way that you'll constantly be theorizing inside your head ways to explain what's going on with every bite of bread from the trail of breadcrumbs that the game sets up for you. Until Then's narrative takes you on a well-constructed, chaotic ride through one boy's youth as he experiences a journey of finding purpose, falling in love, building friendships, and struggling through loss and grief. The story starts gradually, some may even say slow, as it sets the pieces and builds its world. But once it's all set and the pieces are put into motion, it'll take you on an unforgettable, wildly emotional journey. We can't go into further detail because it really is better to experience the wild twists, turns, and reveals that this game goes into yourself. All we can really say is prepare your heart, because it's gonna take a little bit of a beating. While we stick to our guns in saying that the story is beautiful, it's far from perfect. There are some points of the story where it feels like it slows to a crawl and that you just want to know what happens next. This is particularly true around the start and towards the end of the story. Also, while its cutscenes have the look and feel of an indie movie, sadly it also inherits the cliché tropes and somewhat pretentious dialogue that you'll find in romance indie movies. There are some quirky dialogue and forced interactions that really don't feel like they would come from an actual human being. One of our biggest complaints, actually, is Mark himself. Now, your mileage may vary on this one, but he really just didn't click with us. In the first few hours of the game, he's got this knack for being snarky, disrespectful, lazy, and always throwing out unnecessary comments, like your typical irritating indie movie lead. There are quite a few times when we wanted him to just stop. He also makes a lot of questionable decisions that'll have you burying your head in your hand, going, "Ugh, Mark, you dumb f-" But hey, if that was the vibe they wanted from Mark at the start, then the devs succeeded in showing that he's kind of a jackass. Thankfully, he does grow past being an irritating D-bag later on. At the heart of it, Until Then is a story-first, gameplay-secondary kind of work. It's in this aspect that A Space for the Unbound gets a leg up on Until Then. A Space for the Unbound had an inventory system that you could use to store items that you find so that you could use them to fulfill requests or solve problems. It gave it a more of a point-and-click adventure feel as opposed to Until Then that's really more of a visual novel with the occasional minigame. Speaking of, the minigames were pretty jank on our review copy, and we really hope that they fix that for the release version. The minigame problems were the least of it. Sometimes we would also experience the screen freezing during a loading screen. Again, hopefully these issues have been fixed before they release it. The art is a beautiful mix of 2D pixel art and 3D model backgrounds. The animation of the characters' facial expressions conveys a lot of emotion. Even in the non-close-up art, the pixel art does a good job of conveying facial expressions. The bouncing idol animation is a little distracting though. Maybe they could have slowed down the animation of that one by a little bit. There's a lot of intricate detail in the backgrounds that truly make it feel like an actual place in Metro Manila, especially the "we have Jollibee at home" over there. Hats off to the wonderful art director, Charlene Yap. Oh, what's this? We have an interview with the art director that you can click on over there? Wow, isn't that nice and convenient? The soundtrack complements the game's themes and tones well. It's not particularly memorable, but it's not something I'd listen to outside the game. However, there are definitely standout tracks that elevate certain scenes, especially since the piano plays a central role in the story. There's a lot of detail put into the background chatter as well. Sometimes you hear people making actual conversation as you're doing your thing. Also, as someone who plays the piano from time to time, the guy failing in his piano practice is very relatable. But the game missed an opportunity by not including voice acting, which could have really added to the overall immersion, and it's a shame since they actually have voices for background chatter too. Until Then is a wonderful story-heavy work of art. It pulls you into its world with its amazing art, unique Filipino flavor, and that story. Oh sorry, it's a fairly compact experience that'll have you spending 15 to 18 hours. It is, however, very much a visual novel experience, so be prepared to do a lot of reading. It's also an amazing value for money that will set you back $20 or less if you can make the early bird sale price. Like A Space for the Unbound, it definitely deserves a space up there as a representative of wonderful indie games showcasing the culture of Southeast Asia. Until Then was an emotional roller coaster ride, and we're giving it an 8.8. So those are our thoughts on Until Then. Were you waiting for this game to come out as well? If you've already finished playing it, tell us your thoughts. Share the feels. You'll feel better if you do. Just don't forget to tag spoilers. Like if you liked, subscribe for more video game related content. We'll see you in the next video. But until then, this has been GameMate, signing off.